Hey y'all, Kate from Love Story here, and today I'm here to do a Gush spoiler review of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. Now, if you haven't read this book yet, go and watch my spoiler-free review, then read the book, then come back to this spoiler-free review, because this will give all the spoilers for the book. So do not continue watching this if you haven't read the book, because it'll probably ruin the book for you. But if you've read the book and you love it just like I did, keep watching. So, an overview of what happens in The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. We have Addie LaRue, who is a French girl. Her parents are trying to force her into this love-lodge marriage so they can survive in France, essentially. And Addie doesn't want to do it. She's tired of being held accountable to people. She just wants to live her own life, free of all expectations and free of these loveless marriages that are in line for her. So she prays to all the gods that she can think of, and no one is answering. And she remembers that her maid Estelle said, "Whatever you do, don't pray to the ones that answer in the dark." And at Addie's most desperate moment, the night before her marriage, in her wedding dress, she prays to the dark. And the darkness comes, and she makes a deal with him that says she'll live a free life, an immortal life, but in return, no one will be able to remember her. The moment Addie turns around, the moment a door is closed, the moment she's out of sight from people, they forget that she even exists. Her parents don't even know that she exists. And we learn throughout the story that she can't say her name to anyone. She can't tell her story. She can't leave a mark on anything. She can't create anything. She can't write anything. And we see her journey through this. And then we meet Henry, who we learn through various chapters in his interactions with Addie that he's also made a deal with this darkness whom Addie has named Luck. That he made this at his most desperate time, that he just wanted to be loved by people and wanted to be enough for people. And so he made a deal with Luck that at first we hear it's for a lifetime, that he'll be enough for everyone for a lifetime. And in return, once his life is over, his soul goes to Luck. Just like Addie's soul will go to Luck when she's done with it. But then we learn this heartbreaking detail that it wasn't for a lifetime, it was just for a year. And he only has 1 month left with Addie, and Addie tries so hard to convince Luck to change this deal. And Luck says, it wasn't a coincidence that you guys met. I brought you together because you gave each other what you needed. And then at the very last minute, the last night that Henry has left, Addie makes another deal with Luck and says, if you let Henry live and let him remember me, I will be yours forever. And Luck agrees, and Henry goes on to write The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, basically publishing all of these journals that he's kept during the year with Addie, of Addie's life stories that Addie tells him. And this book was just so emotional and so atmospheric, and it made me ugly cry so hard at the end. I just couldn't deal with it anymore. I gave this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars because what kept it from being a 5-star book for me was that the timeline at the beginning of the book, mostly with Henry's story, was a bit confusing. I found that I had to go back to previous chapters to see when something had happened. Like, there was a moment when I was reading and Henry says, like, this is the girl that came in yesterday. And I'm like, wait, this was only yesterday? I thought they had been together for weeks. They had known each other for weeks. So I had to go back to an earlier chapter and found out that it actually was only a day. And also, like, at the beginning, it was hard for me to sympathize with Addie because she just kept stealing, and then she was drugging men to have a place to stay. And I got why she did it, because of the curse. She had to. No one remembered her, so even if she was paid for stuff, they wouldn't remember. They'd think she was stealing anyway. But those two reasons are why it was a 4.5 out of 5 stars for me instead of a 5. But the second half of this book was 5-star, definitely 5-star material. Once we're with Henry, it was less about Addie stealing to survive and more about their story together and their love together. And at one point, Henry even points out to Addie that it's wrong to steal no matter the reason. And that just was like Addie's wake-up moment. My favorite character in this book was Henry. He feels everything, and he just wants to be loved by and enough for people in his life. And I felt like I could relate to this so much. And his deal with Luck was so heartbreaking because he just wanted to be loved, and Luck gave him this thing where people see what they want in Henry for a year, and then Henry realizes this, and he's like, I don't know if this is just what they want to see in me, or if they really like me, and if they really want to be friends with me. And his moment with his best friend Beatrice sitting outside of Robbie's house is just so heartbreaking, because she says, you're my best friend, you're this great listener, you're this and this and this, you're always there for me. And Henry realizes that this is just what she wants to see in him, and he could be this great friend, but he's not. And he vows to try to be a better friend, a better best friend for Bay, and the actual best friend that she thinks he is. And his story was just so heartbreaking, and I could relate to it just so much. I loved Henry. So some favorite quotes that I pulled out, and these are from, in my spoiler-free review, which I'll link here, I pulled out some quotes from the beginning of the book. So these quotes are from the later part of the book, and they're more spoiler type quotes, so I left them here for the spoiler review. So some quotes. But this is how you walk to the end of the world. This is how you live forever. And also, no matter how small or how big it feels, like his heart is breaking again inside his chest. And that quote is about Henry before he made the deal with Luck, and that was the moment where I was like, yes, I relate so much to Henry. He is me in this book. Another quote, history is something you look back on, not something you really feel at the time. In the moment, you're just living. And this is a quote from Addie to Henry. Henry is taking down all of her life stories that we learn he later goes on to publish after Addie leaves. And he says, like, all of these moments are historical moments in the history of the world. What was it like? And Addie says, you're just living. At that moment, it's not history to you, it's just life, and you're just trying to survive. And this is so important. And I can relate to it so much, because right now there's a lot that's going on, especially in the US, that a lot of people are saying are historical moments, and you realize you're just living. It's just life to you. You're just trying to survive day to day. And so I could really relate to that quote. Just 2 more quotes, and then we'll wrap it up. So the next quote says, she moves among the books as if they're friends. And this is me with books so much. Books have always been that friend that I could count on, and they never let me down. They were always there for me, even at my darkest, deepest times. And so this quote was I could relate to so much. And then the last quote from the very last page of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, that is the thing about living in the present, and only the present. It is a run-on sentence. And that just left me feeling like, yes, this book just left me feeling so emotional. I ugly cried so hard in this book. I felt emotional and loved and happy and just content finishing this book. I felt all the emotions reading this book that I believe E. Schwab wanted you to feel. This was a Love Story Discord buddy read, and I'm so glad I chose this for our buddy read for January. Such an amazing way to start off 2021. I'm glad that I waited this long to read it, because it feels like the perfect way to start off this year. So like I said, I give this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. It is such a fantastic read. If you haven't read it yet, please go read it. I don't know why you've waited this long to I'm sorry for all the spoilers that you got, but I gave you a warning at the start that this is going to be a spoilery review. So if you haven't read it and you got all these spoilers, try to forget what I said and go and read the book and then come back and tell me what you thought. If you've read it, thank you for staying with me this long, and let me know what you thought of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. What were your favorite moments in this book? Who were your favorite characters? What were your favorite quotes from this book? I love this book so much. Thank you to Michael and Abby and Jessie from the Bookish Mom all for recommending this book. Such a fantastic book, and even though it's only January, I have a feeling this is going to be one of my favorite reads this year. So that's it for now. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notifications of all of our new videos, and keep reading.